Meeting will come to order, please. The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act for this meeting have been satisfied. Would you please take a second, turn off all electronic equipment, and we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Becker,
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo,
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg.
I am here.
We have with us today our representatives from our auditor, Ford Scott and Associates. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Mike Garcia from Ford Scott Associates. All right, I'm Mike Garcia from Ford Scott Associates. This is Caitlin Grant, also from the firm. Caitlin manages and supervises most of the audit field work here for you, and she's worked here on your engagement for probably 5 or 6 years. So she's very familiar with everything that goes on here. For tonight, we have the presentation of the audit for the 2017 year. So that's the December 31st of 2017. And I do want to quickly just recap some of the important numbers for you. First, the cash position for the city increased by about $9 million at December 31st, 17 versus 16, to give you a current fund cash balance of $16.5 million. That $9 million increase was predominantly because the prepaid taxes increased by a similar amount. As everyone is aware, because of the new federal tax law limiting state and local property tax deductions to $10,000, many municipalities nationwide had taxpayers prepaying in December for the 2018 tax year. So that extra cash was on hand and caused your cash balance at December 31st to be significantly higher than it usually is. Another reason why you had an increase in that cash balance was your tax collection percentage was up slightly from 98.36 to 98.5. So collections were stronger than the prior year. Still, very, very strong at 98.5%. Finally, your fund balance in the current fund increased by about $759,000. Also, that relates to your increase in your cash balance. The majority of the increase in fund balance came from the fact that appropriation reserves from your prior year budget, unexpended amounts that lapsed into fund balance, were higher than previous years. What that means in a nutshell is your fund balance increased because you spent less of your budgeted funds and that money was available to come back to surplus, which ultimately is available to balance your subsequent year's budgets, which in this case would be the 2018 budget. So your financial position is strong. Like I said, we increased the fund balance by $759,000. That number gives us $4.5 million in fund balance at December 31st, 2017. In addition to reviewing the numbers in the financial statements as part of the audit, we're required to determine if the city follows all of the rules and regulations that the state imposes on municipal governments. When we find an area of mistake or error, we're required to report a finding and recommendation. This year, we do have one finding to report. I'm going to go over it, explain what happened. But once this finding is accepted, the city will be required to complete a corrective action plan, file it with the state, and that corrective action plan will basically say what you're going to do to make sure this doesn't happen again. So now let me get into the finding. And what it is during our review of payments made to vendors in excess of the city's $17,500 bid threshold, we noted 3 vendors that were used during 2017 for services in which the vendor was never subjected to the applicable bidding requirements. In prior years, the city had been operating with a temporary qualified purchasing agent, QPA. You may recognize that term, QPA, qualified purchasing agent. When you have a QPA, you're allowed to have a bid threshold of $40,000. In 2017, you did not have a QPA, temporary or permanent, which by statute means your bid threshold is $17,500. So when we did our testing for bids, what we found were 3 vendors who were between the $17,500 and the $40,000 bid threshold, the old bid threshold. So the 3 exceptions to the bid law are the result of the fact that we were using the $40,000 bid threshold when we weren't allowed to because we don't have a qualified purchasing agent. Now, the city is in the process of having an employee complete the training and coursework to become a qualified purchasing agent so that in the future, you won't have the issue of $17,500. You will be back up to the $40,000 threshold once that employee gets certified and approved by the state as a qualified purchasing agent. But once again, $17,500 is your bid threshold until you have a QPA. We found 3 vendors that were above $17,500 that should have had bids but didn't. Although they were above $17,500, they were below $40,000. So had those expenses been conducted in a prior year, it wouldn't have been a finding. But because $17,500 was your threshold in this year, that's where the finding comes from. So the recommendation is obviously that you follow the applicable bid threshold, whether it be $17,500 or $40,000 when you get a QPA. That's the only finding that we have in this audit. So other than that, the things that we tested on a sample basis were conducted in compliance with the rules and regulations that the state imposes. There is this one finding. Like I said, a corrective action will be required, and hopefully it doesn't repeat. Yeah?
Question. Are we allowed to use a shared service with another municipality or entity that has
Yes.
a QPA?
Yes, many towns will do that if you don't have a QPA. Many towns will do a shared service with a neighboring community that has a QPA to get that threshold to $40,000. It's quite common, and is if you don't have an in-house employee meet the credentials, then it's a good idea to find someone to partner with. That would be a good idea.
Any other questions for Mr. Garcia? We thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. Good night, everyone.
Good night. You're not staying for the other 5 meetings?
We'd love to, but we'll take a rain check on that. Take care.
Yes. You may. Mr. Deany.
I discussed that finding with Mike before tonight, and as you know, we do have an employee, as he said, who's been going to classes for 2 years. He's finished all of the classes that the state requires. He has been the acting or temporary person, but the state only allows that to happen for a specific period of time. The final test has been given this month in June, and we should know within 6 weeks of whether or not that person will have a license. If not, the plan is to work with Longport, because we have just done a shared services with Longport, as you recall, here a couple of weeks ago to get some financial assistance. Their CFO is going to be working with Lisa here as a 1 day a week, and she started already. And she is a certified purchasing agent as well. So within a few weeks, we'll either go with our in-house way, or we'll use Jenna, who's working with us 1 day a week, and we'll have that issue resolved.
Thank you, Rich. Any other comments before we move on? Okay. There being no other items for discussion, we'll move to department head reports. And Scott, why don't you start?
Start with me. I see Mr. Leeds is here tonight. I know he has an interest with the redevelopment of his property in Amherst Avenue. By next meeting, we will have an agreement, proposed agreement, forwarded to the city. As you know, they have, as per the planning board approval, reconstructed the new bulkhead along Amherst Avenue. I think it's 175 feet, am I right, Mr. Leeds? And they've done it to our city specifications and standards. It's at elevation 8, and it looks wonderful. And so now we're obligated to move forward on the understandings we had to arrange for parking and perhaps a conveyance of a portion of the area. If you recall, there had been a quitclaim deed back from them that cleared that title of any question. The city, I believe, committed to them that if, upon building that bulkhead, there would be certain area laid out for them to have their parking and their, I guess, stairway as well, a ramp. So I'll have that agreement finalized and available. We have to do it by ordinance, I believe. We'll, of course, have Roger review it and the dimensions and meets and bounds description. And so we're moving forward. I want Mr. Lee to know that. Appreciate the fact that we've got at least a portion of the bulkhead along Amherst Avenue is now brand new and should hopefully last a long time. Also on tonight's agenda, you'll know the land use ordinance. That represents a very significant amount of work that's been done by many of our professionals, Remington and Vernick, and Roger McClernand have worked extensively on it. Our board members, the planning board has had a lot of input. Assuming that you will approve the introduction of it tonight, it will go to the planning board for their review and further input before we go to the next step to enact it as an ordinance amending our land use ordinance. Mayor, I think that's it. Those are the two. Oh, and the good news is the ice cream vendor brought his check in. The city has been paid in full. Things are smooth on the beachfront. So we're going.
Thank you, Scott. Roger?
All right, we'll see if it clears. I think it will.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to echo what Scott said, the land use ordinance changes are directly the result of the master plan that's been going on for the last 2 or 3 years. That'll be presented to the planning board next Thursday evening for their review and recommendation back to the board of commissioners. Also on tonight's is an ordinance revising the house numbering, and it makes our ordinance comply with the fire code, which there was a discrepancy on that. Other than that, everyone seems to want their CO tomorrow, so it's been busy.
Thank you, Roger. Ed?
Okay, projects that are currently under construction or coming to fruition are the street and storm drainage system. Contract is complete. There are 3 small punch list items that still need to be addressed, mostly landscaping, sprinkler type stuff. And 2 of the streets still require to have the steps put back, but there is access through the handicap access openings. The tennis courts have all been recoated, so all 6 courts now have fresh coating on them, and they have the Wimbledon or whatever, the color has been changed at the request of the recreation director, and they look great. They came out really nice. The transportation enhancement grant that we're going to put in for the Ventnor and Washington Avenue intersection here, I forwarded to the chief, to the commissioners, to Roger. There's 8 concept drawings we've done. I would ask you just take a look at them. If you have any questions or any recommendations, let me know. If you need a bigger copy of, they will print out on 11 by or 8.5 by 11, but I can make bigger copies if necessary. So I would ask you just take a look. If there's any that really jump off the page, let me know. And other than that, the beach lifeguard headquarters is finalized out. Again, that one and the street end will be totally paid and final at the next meeting. And we're currently working on Burke Avenue. We're working on the curb and gutter program, and I believe well number 8 we're starting. So that's it.
Thank you, Ed. Mr. Deeney?
I've been asked to announce, actually, on behalf of people that work on this for quite a while recently, that we have a totally new and revamped website that I invite you and the public to look at, because we're getting some really good responses back. It's www.margate-newjersey.com. It's the same address as we had previously, but the website is entirely new, much more user-friendly. People are able to take surveys if we have them and to ask us questions and get responses, and it's working well so far. And the Facebook page has also been updated, and there are positive comments as well. A lot of photographs on that, which we've had for a long time. Kelly from my office has been prime on this with the assistance from Dawn and from our IT guru, who will also speak on this subject if he has anything to add in a few minutes. But I thank them. Also, Joy Cantor, she really started the Facebook page a long time ago. We kept it pretty quiet in the sense, not quiet from the community, but quiet in the sense that we didn't put an awful lot on it other than what she was able to put on it. And she did a lot of photography for the last couple of years, which was well received by those who watched it. But obviously there are a lot of concerns with social media, and we wanted to go pretty slowly with the Facebook portion of it especially. I'm still have some concerns, and I think we need to develop some stronger policies with respect to it. But it's a great improvement, and I know that there were requests through the commissioners that we update our website, and I invite you to take a look and give us feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Chief?
All good in the police department.
Lisa?
Just a few things. You'll notice on tonight's agenda, there's a resolution to add the 2018 Clean Communities Grant. So there's a Chapter 159 authorization on there so that we can include it in the budget. We already received the funds this year, which were $30,419. So we need to add it to the budget to anticipate the revenue with an offsetting appropriation. And just as a side note, I know Anthony Edge has been taking over for Franz since his retirement in Clean Communities, and he's doing an excellent job. I mean, he's very efficient on top of it. He's communicating with me on a regular basis, and things are running very smoothly. So he's doing an excellent job. Also, yes, we're speaking of audits. In addition to Margate's audit at yesterday's monthly JIF meeting, the Atlantic County JIF accepted their audit report for the 2017 year. There were no findings in the report. Their surplus was over $29 million as of the end of 2017, and they're in the JIF overall is in an excellent position financially. One other thing I want to mention in regards to the required management and supervisor training that we have to comply with as a member of the JIF. If there's 2 sessions left that are offered by the JIF, they're coming up, I believe, September. I could send an email to everyone. One is in Wildwood, I believe the other one is in Hamilton. So if you and your supervisors in your department have not already attended one of the sessions, please make sure that you send them because it is a requirement of our membership. Last 2 other things. We have a non-anticipation note that's coming due on August 8th. The note was in the amount of $6,750,000, and that was to fund various improvement authorizations for the school, our utility, and our general capital. So I've been in contact with our bond counsel. I'm going to start working on that and see what we can do as far as issuing new bonds. I also have to review what the upcoming projects are in relation to our cash position to see if we may need to borrow more than the $6,750,000 or if we could just roll them over. And lastly, for the last few years now, we obtained the services of an actuary to analyze the pension plan for lifeguards. And so I just received the report that I'm going to be reviewing, and I'll get back to him with final comments.
I have not had a chance to discuss it with Rich yet, but I will do so next week. I did briefly scan it, and the amount that I had appropriated in this budget, which has been consistent with the last few years, it falls a little bit short of what they're recommending as their minimum, but I want to review it first before I speak further on that. Other than that, everything is good. Thank you.
As far as the fire department's concerned, we have a couple of activities coming up next week. First of all, the open house at the library next Thursday, July 28th. As most of you have attended this, it's something we've done every year for many years. We put our apparatus on display, our equipment on display. We have a little fire prevention program for the children, and we have some refreshments there. So that'll be it's starting at 6:30 next Thursday. And then Friday night, we have a Friday night. It's Friday, June 29th, at the firehouse. It's going to be a wellness day. Danielle, do you want to speak on that? Danielle had put this program together for the local.
We're going to have a wellness day starting around 9:30 in the morning. We're going to have the mammogram bus, skin cancer
Thursday,
screenings.
Think
Some
we're
other,
picking you up on that microphone. We're close.
it's not picking me up?
Now it is.
Okay.
Better now.
We're going to have the mammogram bus, skin cancer screenings, Jewish Family Services is coming, Gilda's Club is coming, Be the Match will be coming. Shore Memorial is sending somebody over to give information on sleep studies, cancer prevention, probably blood pressure and blood sugar checks. So it's going to be a day full of, information and screenings going till about roughly anywhere between 3:30, 5 o'clock. I put 3:30 on the flyer, and then because the bus leaves around 3:30, and then we'll just let it fizzle. So we'll have refreshments. Juniors has been kind enough to donate donuts. 73, I know, of all things. Seven.
Lots of sugar on them?
Yeah,
hopefully?
right
Okay.
before they get it tested. 7311 is supposed to send healthy baked goods. So Cookie was nice enough to send
there
some
such a
things.
thing?
I know. Boca donated $200 toward whatever. We have T-shirts that are made that we're going to be selling, and we're going to donate the proceeds to an organization, local organization that we have not determined yet, that directly impacts families locally. So we have not decided on an organization, but the T-shirts will be for sale, and then the proceeds from those shirts will be donated along with the money from Boca. He's also sending pizzas in the afternoon. We'll have drinks, water, juice, music. California Yogurt's going to be given 10% off all day, and he's also going to donate minimum $300 on the day of. And then we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, we have a great turnout.
Good job, Danielle. Thank you.
Next Friday, the 29th?
The 29th, it's going to be all day, and you do not have to have an appointment for the mammogram bus. It's through AMI, but appointments are welcome. So far I called today, there is one appointment scheduled at 2:45. Other than that, there's no appointment scheduled, so the appointments will be honored, and then everybody else will fall in however need be.
Thank you.
So can I ask that,
Sure.
just because I might have missed the beginning, this is a community event or
Yes.
a city event? So,
This is,
open to the community?
open to the public.
So the idea would be, I think this would be a great idea for a phone blast, to let the community know that, this sounds like a tremendous event, and you guys apparently have done a great job. I'd like for more people to know about it, to get the word
Absolutely
out.
Wonderful.
We have some signs up around town.
Yeah, I did put some flyers up. We have a sign, we have a banner out front of the firehouse.
Right? Rich, could we, John, do you think we should do a
Absolutely.
phone blast
We
for
can do-
this?
That's a good idea, Maury. Actually, we could do both events, but I know our library event on the Thursday night is already well attended every year because the famous hot dogs. When you have firemen cooking hot dogs, all the kids come out with all the equipment. It's a great night. It's a fun night. My grandson just wants to get into a fire truck every time he sees it, so it works out. But great idea, Maury, and we'll follow through, and Fred will do it.
And kids are welcome
Oh,
on
yeah.
Thursday. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's obviously not, the screenings and things aren't for kids, but everything will be available.
Thursday night is a kid's
Yeah.
night, family night.
Good night
Right.
to advertise. That'd be good night to advertise.
Yeah.
Bring sign, we'll bring sign down, advertise that
Oh,
night.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'll bring the sign down there.
Thursday, 28th, and 3 hot dogs.
Yep.
Right.
Is the retired chief making an appearance to cook or no?
Yes.
Retired chief?
Oh,
Good.
absolutely.
See-
I have one last thing from the fire chief. He wants to warn all residents it's barbecue time, and please keep the barbecue cookers away from the siding of the house, especially if you have vinyl siding. If you go around the backyards of all these houses around like we do and the police officers do, you see about 5 feet up, melted siding, distorted siding is where a barbecue was. So keep them away because that's just an accident waiting to happen.
Scott, I just want to touch on that because now with everybody elevating their homes, I'm noticing a lot of grills on the decks and they're covered decks. Not a good idea, right?
No, but that would be something that, if you see something like that, you would report to Butch, the fire official. That's something that he would be taking care of as far as the ordinances are concerned. Technically, you're not supposed to have those grills on any porches.
Is that it for you, Scott?
What's that?
That's your report for the?
I'm done.
Okay. Moving on, I think Fred's the next one in line. Fred, your comments?
Well, I'll just speak on the website since Rich led into it. The website was asked to be modified through the commission, and the same company that built the original site just happened to be upgrading their platform at the same time, so it did work out. So the platform that it's on has changed, which means the site itself will change shape for whatever device you're looking at it in. So if you try and look at it on your phone, it won't be distorted. It'll just shrink itself down to the size of the phone. So that was the biggest change as far as the platform's concerned. The design of it was picked mostly by Kelly with my guidance into how to do it. But Kelly did an awful lot of work on building this site. The content that we have on the site came from the old site. She just went through and updated some things. She tested it all and came to me with, suggestions or ideas or problems, and then I just guided her along to where she should be. Of course, I checked everything afterwards, but the site looks better. It's a prettier site. We went with what they call mega menus now, as opposed to just you click on something and it drops down with a whole bunch of names. Now, if you run your mouse over something, the box will open up with what's inside of it. The other piece that we added was something called popular pages. And what that is, it's done by Google Analytics, and it keeps track of what pages are hit the most. And then those selections go into this box called popular pages. So for instance, if you look at it now, you'll see mayor and commissioner, planning board, I don't know what else is in there, documents, but the popular pages that get hit go into that box. So it could change from week to week or month to month, depending upon how many people go into certain pages. All of the items are still on there from the old site. Nothing was taken off. And now Kelly is going through and putting all the events into the calendar. So not to be confused with the Business Association's calendar, but in addition to the Business Association's calendar. So yeah, there was an awful lot of work done to it. She did an excellent job. I can't take any credit for it. She just took it on herself and just went ahead and did it. So, all the credit goes to her. But the site looks good. It does what it's supposed to do. And obviously, we're going to keep track and see if they missed out on anything on the transfer. But it's up and running as of late yesterday. So I invite everyone to go out and check it out. And I always tell everybody, try and break it. That's what you're supposed to do when you put something up new. Try and break it, let us know what it is, and then, we'll move forward from there. But the site's there to be used. Hopefully, people will use it. Thank you.
Yes, I can say it's very user-friendly, and it's enjoyable to get on there. So kudos to all involved. Moving on, Johanna?
Liquor licenses are on today's agenda. Everyone will be receiving their liquor license as of July 1st, so we've been successful.
Great news. That's from the clerk's office. Have all department heads had their time?
Yes.
We've covered everybody? At this time, we will open up the meeting for public comment, but understand at the 5 o'clock hour, you can talk about and discuss anything. Currently, you're only allowed to discuss the items discussed during this meeting time. Anyone from the public would like to come forward, please come forward.
Hi, everybody. Ed Berger, 9402 Amherst Avenue. First of all, the website looks great. I had my fingers in the old one, and I did have a chance to cruise around a little bit today when I was looking for the agendas and everything, and it's really beautiful. You guys did a really nice job on it. We'll keep it updated. It'll really do a great job for the city, and I'm very happy that it was given the attention that it was given. Super. Simply because all the department heads are here, and although nobody mentioned Beach Stop, it is upcoming. It is upcoming on the 30th. I want to thank Scott and Dave, and well, Frank's not here. This is going to be an interesting beach stock for us because it's the first time we're doing it on what we would like to refer to as the newly reconfigured beaches of Margate. And it's going to be a little bit more spread out than it was before. We've got a bigger footprint. But I think it's going to be workable, and with the help of Public Works and the Police Department and the Fire Department, we're looking forward to having a great event on the 30th. The setup on that is on the 29th, and everybody's involved in it. So thanks to all the department heads on that as well. I had a question or two on the land use stuff, Scott, and maybe you could just point me in the right. I noticed that there was an ad as far as the definitions were concerned for commercial parking lots. Is it the intention to have paid, is this written in because there's a new intention to have paid commercial parking lots in Margate, or is this just creating an outline and framework in case that's something that is going to be looked at in the future?
Mayor, I'm not really, I can answer that question. Thank you. To answer your question, under the direction of Rich Deeney, we put together a committee understanding the parking situation in Margate. And we're looking at all possibilities. We're dealing, the chief is a part of that committee, our planning board chairman, Rich Patterson, Mr. Deeney, and myself. We're trying to visit every venue we can. We haven't made any decisions. We've looked at numerous sites. We've looked at numerous opportunities to help out with the situation. We have no answers at this point, but trust us, it's a priority with this commission to understand. We understand we're on a barrier island and parking's very limited. We want our businesses to thrive. We want our community to thrive, and we understand how important the business community is to us and our residents 12 months of the year. And we hate the time in October when our second homeowners leave and our visitors leave, because our business community does have a difficult time for those 8 to 9 months. We're in essence a 10-week community, and we're working hard. Trust me.
We have a couple of business owners here I know came tonight during the 5 o'clock meeting to express their concern about what's going on down at their end of town as well. And I guess at the 5 o'clock they'll get a chance to discuss that.
At the beginning of the 5 o'clock meeting.
At the beginning of the 5. The only other thing from land use, I also notice you can't help but notice that there's a significant amount of additions as far as resort, hotel, and land use. Is this as a result of the general direction of the master plan, or is there actually a proposal on the table for the city as far as taking any specified areas on the beachfront or on the bayfront and trying to develop one in this area?
It's all recommended by from the master plan, Ed.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
all, and so it's
Thank
trying
you.
to make space in case that does indeed occur?
We're somehow trying to make things available if it ever comes up, correct?
So, all right, because that seems to be a significant change in posture as far as
That's
the
true.
things were in the
Okay,
past.
thank you, Ed.
May I ask a question? Is that something you support?
Personally, you know, I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, Scott, you know, and I don't really have enough information to give you a yes or no on that yet. I would love to see us have, from a business community standpoint, have a bigger pool of 12-month out of the year transients coming in and out of the city to feed the businesses. I would.
And this would be a small part in making that happen.
You know, but on the other hand, you know, the residential community aspect of Margate is something that has made it what it is today. So it would be, I think it would be a very difficult balance to try and strike. So,
Okay, thank you.
challenge.
Can I add something to the commercial parking? It was always inferred that commercial parking was a permitted use in the commercial districts. Here, we're just defining it.
I was always under the impression that paid parking was not something that was allowed in the city. If you owned a lot, that you could not charge for parking. And that was the gist that I got from reading
Okay.
the change in the language.
Thank you, Ed. Any other public comment here, folks? Please come forward. Your name and address, please.
Good evening, my name is Ray Romito, R-O-M-I-T-O, 9408 Amherst Avenue. I'll be brief. With the website, I do use the website quite often, and I like the part that has the FAQs, the frequently asked questions. I think it's very, very important for not only for the local people, for people coming down. So I think it's a wonderful idea. Also, my final comment is going to be with the all-call. I think that's a wonderful idea. I have a daughter who goes to high school in mainland. And for all of us local residents, I do think that extra all-call, even though it might be a couple of minutes, I think it's well worth it, so we get more people from the community out to these events. And for me personally, I would appreciate having the all-calls.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Sewell, 22 West Drive. Two issues. The first was with the accountancy firm of Ford Scott discussing the surplus. I would ask this commission to seriously consider following and emulating the Brigantine Commission, which has had 3 property tax cuts. We've had 30 to 35 millions of tax ratables go on the book year after year after year, and no residual benefit to the year-round residents. You yourself just said it's a 10-week town, and I think that the 2020 census will clearly bear this out, that you've been chasing the senior citizens out of town by unreasonably high property taxes. And I think that this commission owes it to the property taxpayers to keep cost in line and actually to reduce cost. And of course, that 800-pound gorilla in the room is that $13.5 million school budget that nobody wants to attack that sacred cow. But I'll tell you, mark my words, there's a lawsuit coming down the pike, and you're not going to like it one little bit. I'll discuss it more at 5 o'clock, but you're going to see such a radical transformation, you won't recognize an urbanized suburban school system. And you gents haven't witnessed it firsthand. I have. And it's a brutality that you just can't imagine. You just can't conceptualize. So you go ahead and leave this 13.5 white elephant, continue to be abusive of the senior citizen taxpayers. Having 2 principals, a superintendent, for 337 Margate students. This is insane, insane. There was no need for a 2-year interim superintendent. You could have had a principal/administrator. Been perfect till we downsized to one school. But that's not what you're doing. You're gonna play the waiting game. You're gonna play the mayor's procrastination game. Only this time, it's not butt ugly dunes that you're gonna have to be up against, but something far more dangerous, something far more risky. And that's the loss of your autonomy, so far as the school districts being forced to merge. And guess what? When they merge that school district, due to the 337 number, you don't have any say whatsoever. You're going to be ruled from Atlantic City, and it ain't going to be a pretty picture. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
Mike, if I may, I have,
sure.
I've got one thing, well, maybe two. I wanted to welcome and congratulate the new deputy chief to our, our table, which it's, to see your smiling face is a cheer.
Will you come
And
back?
and congratulations. The second thing is I wanted to thank Mr. Wahlberg, Andrew Miles, and the contractor. Not only do the tennis courts look good, and that's important that they look good, the early feedback from the players is that they're great. They play good. So we did a great job there. The community is very, very happy. And so I wanted to say thank you to everybody that was involved in that. So thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Last chance, any public comment? Is there a motion to close public
I'll
comment?
move to close public comment.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Is
Yes,
there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
We'll take a short break and we will